West Denver. Sleep deprived and heavily caffeinated.
All right, let's do this then.
This is the Jeff and Bill Show.
I don't agree with that.
They don't always agree, but hey, at least they have coffee.
Coffee.
And each other.
I love you, man.
God help us.
I want to bless him. We need all the help we can get.
Now here's Jeff Hunt and Bill Thorpe. The Jeff and Bill Show on News Talk 710 KNUS.
7 a.m. in the Mile High City on this Monday, September 22nd, 2025. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You've tuned in to the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights, hottest takes from the right, left, and center. Yesterday, remarkable day, honoring Charlie Kirk, proclaiming the gospel of Jesus Christ, returning us to America's founding principles. I thought it was wonderful. I tuned in for all 5 hours of it, and to see America's leading figures talking about their faith, calling people to repentance and faith in Jesus Christ, honoring America's founding principles, the great work that Charlie Kirk did, as I had watched a guy build that institution, and in some cases was a competitor with me in what we did with Western Conservative Summit, what he did with America Fest, to see him honored, to see his life reach that pinnacle, and then to watch his wife forgive the assassin, brought me to tears. It was so powerful. We're talking about you all. Give us a call. We're talking about all of that. We want to hear from you. Give us a call, 303-696-1971. Text us on the Dan Capitalist Law text line at 720-819-5115. Let's go to Mary in Wyoming. Good morning, Mary. You're on with Jeff and Bill.
Good morning.
Hi, good morning, gentlemen. One of the things that you're talking on the memorial, by the way, I thought was great. I want to bring up one thing about a previous caller said regarding how the negativity on the media. My computer had to be changed. And when I did that, of course, the default is the Microsoft program. I don't listen to leftist media normally, but it automatically comes up. I can't believe how negative. I mean, they get down to, on the UK visit, I mean, these little snippets, the reporting was about how much makeup he had on his hand.
Mary, I used to host the Western Conservative Summit. I did it for 8 years. And when I started in 2016, we hosted Donald Trump. I had 400 media outlets cover it, okay? He was running for office, and it was a huge turnout and, big that we got him and all that stuff. And then throughout the years, obviously we didn't have that big a turnout, but we'd invite the Denver Post, for instance, or Channel 9 to cover the summit. And you were a guest of ours, and we gave you a media pass, and the general idea was that you were going to cover the event, and we gave you access to our speakers and stuff like that. Over the years, the Denver Post, I would read their coverage, and I would go, what room were you in? You clearly weren't in the room that we were in, because ours was this beautiful tribute to America, and they would write stuff, one, that was factually inaccurate, and two, I mean, it was just mean-spirited in its tone. And I got to the point where towards the end of the Western Conservatives of my leadership of the summit, I didn't even invite them. It wasn't even worth it. It was like inviting somebody to come in and just urinate on your carpet in your house. They didn't provide any benefit. It was factually inaccurate. They missed the tone of the event. And so I understand Trump's frustration, because you read their coverage of something, and you're like, what event were you even at? There's nothing here that even remotely reflects what happened in that room.
And I totally agree. And so when he's talking about, and they even say, in other words, news is or articles that I have read, they say the same thing. Over 90% are negative reporting. And I mean, when I read all this information, I mean, you were talking about getting depressed. It's like, They don't talk about anything of value. They're not talking about the economics or any of the things that are important.
Are they just not talking about, do you feel not talking about anything of value, or you feel that they are not telling you the stories you want to hear? And the reason I ask about that is the critique from both you and Jeff about the idea that, the mainstream media just goes out there and tells all these lies. However, we do have some things inside of the conservative ecosystem over the previous 8 years or so that do show verifiable lies, or at least stories that people have not been able to prove beyond a reasonable doubt and have not been able to prove inside of court cases. And that would be things like the Biden crime family and the 2020 election being stolen. So I understand the critique saying maybe mainstream media isn't necessarily that honest with us all the time. However, are we ignoring the problem inside the conservative house if we're only sitting here throwing rocks at who's sitting across the street?
I would appreciate the stories about the economy on both sides, because it impacts both.
Oh, there are a lot out there,
parties.
Mary. I mean, I hate to interrupt, but there are a lot out there, and I see them in mainstream media a lot, and I don't see them necessarily bent, as in Trump destroying the economy.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm sorry, I'm not saying it. Not in, at least in that thing, because as you know, I usually contact you because I listen to the Daily Mail, and it's even though it's a leftist newspaper, at least they get both sides.
Oh yeah,
so
I
think that
their depth of reporting is
what's
good.
frustrating.
They are liberal, but
what's frustrating though about the major outlets, ABC, CBS, and NBC, is that at one point they were the only outlets. Okay, so what has happened was the juggernauts, the big guys that were supposed to provide the news, time and time again sway progressive at a level of like 90+% in their coverage. Their media newsrooms almost entirely staffed by Democrats. And this is the complaint I've had about Kyle Clark all along in Channel 9. Is at one point, Channel 9 was like the gold standard, okay? Kyle Clark and the big news outlets now, ABC, NBC, CBS, just be honest with who you are. You're Democrat activists who happen to have a news outlet to be able to drive your agenda. This is not about reporting the news. You are working day in, day out to advance a progressive agenda and make sure Republicans don't get elected. That's what you're doing. Just be honest about it.
I disagree with that characterization. I don't think it can necessarily be proven as far as the larger mainstream media outlets. You might be able to have a point with some of the things that Channel 9 does as far as KUSA, but that may be just a point of perception, not necessarily a point of reality.
90% of their coverage is negative of Trump and positive of Democrats.
Hang on a second. I want to see some of those numbers. I understand there's some slant, but hang on. But on the spectrum of news reporting, ABC, CBS, NBC normally hit slightly left, not progressive left, which would be closer to something. Now, for me, on the far end, that's something like a Mother Jones. That's a super left outlet. What you see in Mother Jones isn't anything close to what you see in ABC, CBS, NBC, and I don't think they're equivalent. Just like what I see on Fox News isn't anything close than what I see in the fish rag that is the Gateway Pundit. I don't see anything close to it. And so those are different degrees as well on the other side. So there are degrees inside the ecosphere as well. So I think that when you're lumping them all in together, you're doing yourselves and the conversation a disservice, because they aren't necessarily tilted in notoriously hard left. They're just not, based on the analysis.
Go ahead, Mary.
But I called in regarding conspiracy. That was why
Yes, so what is the conspiracy? Yes, tell us about it.
To me, I think that that the handling of this has been bad on Peter, on Cash, and how that they have been doing it. Because the issues that you brought up really started me really looking into it when you brought up the issue about the gun and jumping from the building bill. So that really had me start looking into it, and it come to the conclusion that there were two shooters. That young man, yes, he went to gun shows, but he did not put in the time that was necessary and the training that it would cause to be able to pull that sniper shot.
I'm not convinced of that, because It's his grandfather's rifle. It's been in the family for years. He would have ample opportunity to be able to practice with it, and especially because it's a unique setup. It's a very specific rifle, and if you look at it, the thing that makes it so difficult is where the scope is. And the other part is that, and I understand the idea of having two shooters. I get the idea of that, but from what I've seen, based on analysis of the audio that happens, and they can do this based on how sounds travel, and they can take a look at things like this. Okay, when there are two noises when that gun goes off, because the bullet travels at supersonic speed, and based on where different recordings are in that open field, they can time the differences between the first sound and the second, and that gives you distance and direction. And they will triangulate that based on a number of different recordings inside of that crowd. And everything that I've seen points right back to where that alleged shooter is. Now, we can say whether or not you think it's that kid, but where they put the shooter at, everything based on audio analysis says that's it, because of the math that they've done.
Well, and also you have the changing of the clothes. You have the the rifle that was found in the woods. I just think that if you start going through, I think they're going to start. And in fact, that was in yesterday's report in the paper that they're now saying that when people are reporting that there are three different, they think, endings of how it happened. It's interesting that one of the ones is coming up with the two shooters.
We'll have to continue to follow it. All right, Mary.
I'm just saying, so I think it's open, but also please look at, like I said, there's going to be more that comes out on it. So we'll see, but I do believe, and and I said that on the third day after the shooting, that I believe at this point they're going to find two shooters. And why don't they have drones at this thing? Why isn't there automatically, if you're going to have open things, that they're not using a drone to run the rooftops?
Yeah, in part because Charlie's not a elected official, so it comes out of his own pocket. I mean,
but his security team.
Yeah.
His own security team.
It's going to get a lot more expensive
equipment.
Too. Yeah, to do these events. So, Mary, Wyoming,
thanks, Mary.
appreciate the call. Keep us up to date on what you see out there. Phone lines are open. Give us a call, 303-696-1971, or text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line, 720-819-5115. What did you think of the memorial service yesterday? Would love to hear from you. I, as somebody who's a Christian conservative and watched Charlie Kirk build, it was honoring to him, and to see major political figures go back time and time and time again to the gospel of Jesus Christ was just historic in my perspective. And then cap that off with Erica Kirk's forgiveness. Man, that was a moment in American history I don't think I'm ever going to forget. Want to hear from you, though. Now it's time, though, for news and comment with Blake Olson.
Blake Olson.
Blake Olson, news and comment.
Good morning. Monday, 53 with clouds in the air in Denver, expecting a high of 77 today. This portion of the news sponsored by Pastor Camp Heating and Air Conditioning at 303-777-1234 to learn more about special savings opportunities on Lennox equipment. Our top story.
Father, forgive them, for they not know what they do. That man, that young man, I forgive him.
As Andrew Colvev from Turning Point USA posted on X, that was one of the most powerful and profound moments our nation will ever witness. That was Erica Kirk. About 100,000 inside State Farm Stadium Sunday and an estimated 200,000 outside the stadium. They remembered and honored Charlie and Jesus. And here's DJT.
If speech is violence, then some are bound to conclude that violence is justified to stop speech. And we're not going to let that be justified. The tradition of reason and open debate that Charlie practiced is not a pillar of our democracy. In many ways, it's the basis of our entire society.
And Elon was there as well, who Charlie Kirk really wanted to see he and DJT get back together. They did on Sunday, sitting next to each other and shaking hands. Others appreciated what they experienced in the stadium.
It was a lot of emotions. Erica's entire speech was really moving, and the fact that she was able to even bring herself to forgive the shooter. I mean, it was really, like even just talking about it right now with you, man, like emotional, really emotional, yeah. really emotional. So
amazing. Colvett on X before the memorial. I just spoke with the surgeon who worked on Charlie in the hospital, and he said the bullet absolutely should have gone through, which is very, very normal for a high-powered, high-velocity round. I've seen wounds from this caliber many times, and they always just go through everything. This would have taken a moose or two down, an elk, etc., but it didn't go through. Charlie's body stopped it. It was an absolute miracle that someone else didn't get killed. His bone was so healthy, and the density was so impressive that he's like the Man of Steel. It should have just gone through. It's likely that it would have killed those standing behind him, too. In the end, the coroner did find the bullet just beneath the skin. Even in death, Charlie managed to save the lives of those around him. And this has also raised many more questions, as we'll hear in the days to come. Thousands of firefighters and families gathered at Memorial Park over the weekend to honor the 311 firefighters who lost their lives over the last year. International Association of Firefighters General President Edward Kelly.
We add 311 names to this memorial wall. 311 lives marked by sacrifice and service. 311 helpers who embodied what it means to see a need in the world and do something about it.
Each name was read aloud and etched into the wall of honor, followed by the toll of a bell and the sound of bagpipes. 47 says he'll make a major announcement on autism today at the White House. He said he believes an answer has been found. The announcement is expected to connect autism in children to the use of Tylenol during pregnancy. World leaders and dictators gather in Manhattan this week for the United Nations General Assembly. More than 150 heads of state and their entourages will arrive at UN headquarters for the 80th session of the General Assembly. John Oliver, he's a late-night comedian, allegedly, says Jimmy Kimmel's suspension is a warning sign for free speech under the Trump administration. Wrong.
Are you playing the audio on this? Does he have any?
No. I don't. You know what? I got to get it.
I love the framing that these are just like innocent little mom and pop press operations. Like they aren't billion-dollar operations to try to stop Republicans from getting elected. I mean, it's just they're so compromised.
They are.
Yeah.
Such a joke. I mean, hey, guess what? He was losing money. Nobody was watching him, and he wasn't funny anymore. Imagine that. Very unlikable. And you're right.
And conservatives for years were shadow banned and had our accounts taken down if we weren't on the narrative with all these social media accounts. Oh, cry me a river.
Bingo. Right. No doubt. All right, the Broncos at the Chargers, week 3 on Sunday.
2nd down and 6. Herbert to the air. Pipkins the block at the right tackle. Got away from Allen. Herbert alive and the throw. Caught. Touchdown. Allen. What a play.
That was incredible. Herbert avoids the pressure in the pocket. The Broncos can't get to him. He gets out of there and scrambles out to the left, and that is such a difficult throw. Squares his shoulders and fires to the end zone for the touchdown. That ties the game at 20.
23-20. Zeros on the clock. It's over, and the Chargers remain unbeaten.
And the Broncos fall to 1-2. And how about former CSU star Torrey Horton?
Left-footed punter booms one down the field. Good punt. Driving Horton all the way back to his 6-yard line. Horton on the return at the 20, right up the middle to the 30. Now Horton to the outside. Torrey Horton down the sideline. And it's a touchdown. 95 yards.
He's on his way to becoming the Rookie of the Year if he continues to play like that. He has been incredible. 52 in Aurora, 51 in Lakewood, 53 in Denver. By the way, CSU lost to UTSA, University of Texas, San Antonio. That's not a good loss. Yeah, CU beats Wyoming at Folsom Field. UNC with a big win at Houston Christian. And Air Force loses to Boise State. Jeff and Billy continue. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
The Denver forecast on this early Monday here on KNUS. A few passing clouds, temperatures around 55 by daybreak. And for the rest of your Monday, becoming mostly sunny this afternoon with a slight chance for a late day shower. A little bit cooler, highs in the upper 70s. Tuesday, sunny, highs around 75. Weather brought to you by L&L Heating and Air Conditioning. For quick, trustworthy, and dependable service, call L&L Heating and Air Conditioning at 720-851-1691. Visit them online at bestdenverhvac.com. That's bestdenverhvac.com. You'll be comfortable with L&L. I'm day weather meteorologist Patrice Sutter in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Well, does the Colorado legislature have a terrorist working for it? This was interesting. Donald Trump, on September 17th, tweeting or posting on True Social, I'm pleased to inform our many USA patriots that I am designating Antifa a sick, dangerous, radical left disaster as a major terrorist organization. I will also be strongly recommending that those funding Antifa be thoroughly investigated in accordance with the highest legal standards and practices. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Well, then state lawmaker Lorena Garcia from the Commerce City area, 2 days later, posts on Blue Sky. By the way, are you on Blue Sky, Bill?
No.
I'm not on Blue Sky either.
I mean, I watch it and read it. No, yeah, sure.
Do you have to have an account to be on it?
No, I don't think so because I don't have one. So I can still see it. Yeah, I just
on X you can't really follow stuff unless you have an account there.
I mean, I go through both because it's a good flavor of what both sides seem to be angry about and seem to think is important. Yeah.
I joined Reddit and quickly got banned.
Oh, did you? Reddit's interesting. I like Reddit a lot because I like Reddit a lot because human interaction. I don't post or write on Reddit. I read. I do not interact there.
I posted my videos on Reddit, and then they banned me.
Yeah, the thing for me is that I know that most of that isn't written by AI, as good or as bad as that is, where I run across AI slop on the others. Oh, side note, just for a second. We had talked on Friday about how the Broncos ownership allegedly was opening up the stadium on Sunday as part of a Kirk memorial. Actually, that was AI slop. It was completely and totally fake. That's why I'm bringing it up. I'm bringing it up that, and I went through and I saw it on a couple of places and I went to look. There was nothing there. And it took me about 10 minutes on Friday afternoon and went, oh, this is just completely and totally made up.
Yeah, I don't think the Broncos would have done that, especially if their team was playing at the exact same time.
Well, they were in L.A. Over the weekend.
Right. But I mean, they're not going to go, hey, come to our stadium and not watch the team.
For me, that's an example of where I was going with the idea of just on both Twitter and on Blue Sky. I run into slop a lot.
So back to Donald Trump, Lorena Garcia. Donald Trump on September 17th says, I'm going to designate Antifa a terrorist organization. And Lorena Garcia on September 19th saying, I am Antifa. Now, here's the question. Is a terrorist now working at the Colorado state legislature? The answer, no, in part because you can't just designate a group a terrorist group if they're domestic. Now, Donald Trump could do this if they were international, and there's a whole process by which you go through, and an organization actually has the opportunity to appeal that designation by the U.S. government. But when it comes to a domestic organization, as terrible as Antifa might be, or even the KKK, or other domestic organizations that may do terrorist-like things, you can only treat them as a criminal enterprise. You cannot actually treat them as a terrorist organization. I thought that was interesting. If you remember The Office, when Michael has to deal with bankruptcy, and at one point he just goes, I declare bankruptcy. And Oscar looks at him and is like, that's not quite how it works. A little similar feel here. That you can't. Completely. Now, Donald Trump has definitely raised and elevated what the U.S. government can do against Antifa, and he absolutely can treat them like a criminal enterprise, and he can go look at who's funding them and creating the riots and the violence, and if it's interconnected, he can absolutely explore that. He can have the FBI do that, but they are not necessarily a designated foreign terrorist organization. Yet, Lorena Garcia going, I am Antifa. Obviously not wise. And Lorena Garcia is quickly elevating herself to the craziest member of the House of Representatives perch. And this is where it gets very, very interesting with Lorena Garcia. So she was originally appointed by a vacancy committee to her seat in 2023. She won a re-election bid in 2024, is now serving a full term in the state house. But our friends over at Complete Colorado have done some digging into her nonprofit, Mr. Thorpe, and this is where it gets particularly interesting. What? She runs a nonprofit called the Colorado Statewide Parent Coalition. And boy, oh boy, it's difficult to find out what they do, even if you go to their website. But while what they do may be not clear, where they're getting their money is very clear. Mirroring Garcia's political rise, they write, among the majority Democrats at the Capitol, the Colorado State Parent Coalition, her organization's fortunes have greatly improved. According to the nonprofit's tax form 990, CSPG, the Colorado State Parent Coalition, CSPC, their revenue when Garcia took the helm was about $517,000, growing by 5 times to $2.7 million in 2023. And clearly, the organization's been pleased with Garcia's leadership since her salary went from $57,000 to $133,000. Now, this in itself is not remarkable, they said. It makes sense that those at the helm of a nonprofit be compensated when the organization does better. It would at least be smart to align things that way. There's a plot twist here. The organization's revenues have ballooned in a large part because of lots of state tax dollars flowing in. She runs a nonprofit, and a lot of its money has been coming from the state government. And since she became a lawmaker, oh boy, has it gone up, and they have the receipts. Since 2018, the nonprofit has taken in $1.85 $5 million in grants from other payouts from the state. There's more. If you zoom in on the numbers, you'll see that the amounts really shoot up starting in January of 2023. That is when she became a lawmaker with a goodly number of grants, they write, after the date easily being triple the biggest payment for services rendered prior to 2023. If you run totals, you'll find that 99.3% of the total money the organization got from the state came after Garcia's appointment as a state representative. Now, they point this out. This is an important caveat. None of this is illegal, mind you, nor is it some kind of state secret. But just because something is legal doesn't mean it can't reek of swamp water. CSPC's sudden rise in fortunes is a great example of this. So they are now bringing in millions of dollars since she has become a lawmaker, the state funding. Now, you may be asking yourself, well, maybe they're doing really important work. I just want to list off what this organization does. Families of school-age children can learn to navigate the educational system and their rights and obligations as parents. The state paying this to the tune of $1.8 million. Here's what else they do. Community members learn the skills and tools to mobilize the communities to create social change. $1.8 million to help communities mobilize to create social change. Now, you can slap that same label, Bill, on Moms for Liberty. They're community members learning to create social change. Should the state be funding those types of activities? It sounds very political, wildly political, to the point of $1.8 million. Here's some more of what they do. Provide support to parents of children with disabilities by providing resources, emotional support, and information. Interesting to me that the state is funneling $1.8 million to provide support to parents with disabilities to get emotional support. Like, it seems to me like there would already be state entities, schools, those types of things, but we have to run it through an organization run by a member who claims to be Antifa? Here's what else they do. It gives parents the knowledge, skills, and materials to support their children before they enter kindergarten. And then an early childhood education program to prepare and certify informal child care providers. So they're training child care providers. So then I went down and looked at, see if I can find some of the reviews from people who've been involved and stuff. I'll have to pull that up. It was on there earlier. But unique amount of money being spent, $1.8 million to people. Here's what some of the people have said that have gone through the program. From learning child development to earning my certification, Peso has changed my life. And that was a child care provider. So they're training child care workers. I now provide even better care for the children I love. It's suspicious to me that money to the point of $1.8 million going to somebody whose executive director claims to be a member of Antifa is using the money to essentially help people create social change and then also train child care providers. It just reeks, from my perspective, of money being spent to indoctrinate and engage in political change. What do you think, Bill?
Well, I think that would be the idea of money being used to indoctrinate and create political change, I think would be universal regardless of if we were talking about a Democrat or a Republican organization. If we were talking about a liberal or conservative organization, my guess would be this type of nonprofit, regardless of where they sat on the political spectrum, would have those goals. And things like when you accurately talked earlier about Moms for Liberty, they seem to have the same things. You could make the argument that they are trying to.
But they're not getting grants from the state.
No, but I'm just talking about the goals. Yeah, I think that's where I'm starting.
I don't care if you have a nonprofit that wants to create political change.
This is just where I'm starting. I'm just starting there.
Yeah.
I'm just starting with the idea that the goals, I think, universal across the way. Now, this to me is just a lot more self-dealing that you have inside of every legislature, both locally and nationally. Absolutely. This self-dealing happens all the time. This is how our governmental system operates. Mm-hmm. This is why we have lobbyists, because lobbyists will get you access to those people that'll make the rules to get around you.
And they're paying them $50 grand a year, the lobbyists of this organization's getting.
Yes. And I think that there should be a rule that if you are serving as a state legislator, you cannot be the CEO of specific types of companies or specific types of nonprofits because of your ability to push funding and money in those directions. But if someone was the CEO of a conservative business group or maybe an oil and gas company and wanted to run for the legislature, chances are that'd be cheered. So that's the idea. And even if it was a conservative group that was running someone that was their CEO. So the problem I have is the function. Yes, when you have someone that's a lawmaker that has the ability to direct funds to their own operation, I think that's a problem. I also think that there should be a rule in there that individual should not be allowed to vote on any sort of measures that cover funding for their particular project. And you know what? If that means it's a huge omnibus bill that covers 17 of you legislators, your programs and projects that you're also in charge and funding, you don't get a vote. That changes the dynamics a lot, doesn't it? Because now you're giving up those votes. I have some issues with this.
I don't think that's enough because
how this functions.
You and I are friends. We work on this show. Yeah. And if I could vote to put more money in your pocket, even if you weren't voting there, yeah. Of course, because we're friends. Think about it. They're all Democrats down there. Here was one of the participants' quotes that I was looking for that just struck me, and I'm going, $1.8 million of taxpayer money. Now, I understand out of $40 billion or whatever we spend in this, it's not huge, okay? But in light of the deficit that we're facing, okay, $1.8 million went to an organization to where the guy wrote, I never thought I'd have my voice in the community. After joining VOZ, I helped organize a town hall meeting that brought real change to our school district. Now, I'd have to dive in and see what Jorge's change was, but if the entity being funded to bring about change in our school districts is run by an avowed member of Antifa, yeah, I got some questions.
Yeah, although the thing is, I'm not putting as much weight into what you're saying about her being an avowed member of Antifa. What I see that is, and I can completely and totally be wrong, I see what she's trying to do. My interpretation of it, better way to start. My interpretation of it was she's doing some really, really bad performance politics. I think my interpretation is that she is trying to do the I am Charlie Kirk. After Charlie's shooting, that's what I think she was trying to do. Because now Antifa is going to be focused and singled out. All of you were doing I am Charlie Kirk, and we saw all those signs, and we saw T-shirts, and we saw movements. And now she's saying, I am Antifa. Again, probably not the best group to say I am. Also, they don't necessarily walk around announcing themselves. One of the things about Antifa, it's kind of like Fight Club. You're not supposed to talk about it. If you're a member of Antifa, you're not supposed to tell anybody. They're all lunatics,
too. I've got a chance to go down and talk with them. They're weirdos.
They're really, really far left. However, they sit in a certain political silo because for them, again, if you are true Antifa, it's fascism. It's not climate change. It's not school board elections. It's not, no. You're worried about the fascism. But I think there are a lot of people down there that put on the jacket of, I am Antifa, because they want to be that rebel without actually being a rebel. I ran through this in the 80s. There were a lot of people that were claiming to be punks that weren't punks. I'm just saying. So that idea, if they wanted that umbrella of reputation, I think it's stupid. I don't know who's advising Representative Garcia, but this is really stupid. You should not put that up there.
She's rising to the top to occupy the perch as dumbest, craziest state lawmaker. And I just want everybody to know this. $1.8 million gone to an organization whose executive director is proud to claim, I'm a member of Antifa, whether or not she's a dyed-in-the-wool, active card-carrying member of it. She feels the duty to let all of you know your money going to people that are proud to now have a voice in their community to bring about change at school districts. Also, here's another one. I used to feel lost in school meetings. Now, thanks to Las Familias, whatever, you butcher that. But I know how to advocate for my kids and help other parents too. What kind of advocate are we doing? What kind of school board change are we doing? And then they're training the preschool kids, the early childhood development people. So, my guess is that the curriculum, the training, not a bastion of conservatism when your executive director claiming Antifa, $1.8 million going to your dollars going to this organization.
Couldn't she have just
very swampy to complete Colorado's?
Oh, that's so swampy. This is, and the problem that I've got is this is swampy because this is how it functions. This is it. This is the swamp in play.
Yep.
This is why it happens, because those in charge, is much easier for them to funnel money towards the organization, businesses they're involved with and or they like. That's why we saw Brittany Pedersen's husband's company getting a nice fat government contract to do some analysis and to do some advertising and stuff for a local city council. That's absolutely right. That's why we saw. I mean, again, I'm going to reach back into time. Jared Kushner being able to pull $2 billion out of a Saudi investment fund after he had worked with them on some other projects. It's the UAE recently bought $2 billion in Trump's cryptocurrency, and now they get access to chips that they didn't have access to before. Yeah. This is how this works. And we absolutely know that's, again, not Biden crime family, but Hunter Biden's business was, yes, the fact that I am Joe's son and I can get you access to those people. Yes. Yeah. Not illegal. That's not necessarily legal. And that's what we have here. Same thing. I'm in charge of the money and I'm in charge of this organization. I can help direct the funding going to the organizations that I like. That's why we always say that elections have consequences. This is the swamp.
9.3% of total money coming into that organization came after Garcia's appointment.
Seems low.
As a state representative.
It does. I'm sorry. It really does. I'm being very caustic about this, but it seems really low.
Oh, you and I are not corrupt enough. There's so much money just sitting out there. And
I feel bad that nobody's asking me for bribes.
Think about Ian Silveri and all that good stuff.
Definitely.
You just got to get somebody into power and just skim off the top, apparently.
Yeah.
Or just take it all.
Yeah. And I mean, to write to, current news, why can't somebody offer me $50,000 to get to, business negotiations and stuff connected once somebody I know gets in power? I mean, come on. Why can't I get those bribes? They do them in cash, too.
Continue.
We don't have cash. We're all walking around here with cards and stuff. Evidently, cash is the only thing we can do bribes in. That's the only thing that's saving cash, is we're all bribing each other with cash.
And bag chips, too.
Yeah. Yes, gold bar bobs. Yeah, gold barbs as well. So I need some of those gold bars.
All right, you're listening to the Jeff and Bill
Show. How do we get on that scam? Okay, this is Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. We're talking Lorena Garcia. She's a state representative from the Commerce City area who declared, I am Antifa, 2 days after Donald Trump said he's going to label Antifa terrorists. Now, he can't do anything about that because when you prosecute people in America, you do it under criminal acts, not foreign terrorist acts. But clearly not wise of Lorena Garcia, quickly rising to the perch as Colorado's dumbest lawmaker.
She could have gone with "I am Jimmy Kimmel." I mean, it's post what she did. It's just why?
Well, I think an enterprising fella may want to look at Biden buying a billboard and just posting her own post up there.
That's
I
true.
am Antifa. Text messages reminding us that her job now earning $130,000. Much of the money coming from taxpayers to the tune of $1.8 million in grants to her nonprofit is probably a part-time job because she gets $40,000 from the state for being a lawmaker. Excuse me.
That's the part that kind of annoys me a little bit is the fact that getting her lawmaker job has, at least from what we are seeing, helped her. I'm not saying that she directed it per se, but helped her have the legislature make choices that increase the salary of her other job. Damn, can we all have that kind of power just for a couple of weeks? Just for a couple of weeks that we could go take a job in the state legislature in order to make our other job pay us more?
While getting money
a nice
from
little
the state job.
thing.
All right, you ready
like
for this?
That.
Here's the kicker. Here's the real kicker.
I need one of
I've
those
been waiting
jobs.
for this for the end. Things start to smell real bad, Complete Colorado says, when you note that from her nonprofit's 2023 tax filing, Garcia's parents got a total of $60,000 for their own nonprofits, funneled through this nonprofit, which is getting $1.8 million from taxpayers.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, funneling money through your own nonprofit and then giving it to the family members for their nonprofit. Again, I would love to see the financials on the mom and dad's nonprofit as far as what it was and what it was doing. I can't say they're doing anything illegal or nefarious or wrong, but it's weird when you're in charge of this nonprofit and then you get the tax money and then give it down to the nonprofit that your parents run. That's weird. It's almost like, I don't know, when you're in charge of putting peace together in the Middle East and have all these business dealings and conversations with Saudi Arabia, and then they give you $2 billion for investment fund afterwards. Yeah. That's very strange.
Big difference. Is it taxpayer dollars?
Very
Is it
strange.
taxpayer dollars?
Just the whole thing is swampy. The entire thing's swampy. Yeah.
You and I got in the wrong business, Bill. And I will believe that.
I know. I should have gone to a business and there's more bribery. Evidently, that's really good. Evidently, that's where the gimmick is. That's what I need. I mean, dude, New Jersey's getting bribed with gold bars. I mean, come on. This is just, to be at the level of bribery where people are bribing with gold? Hell. Damn, that's got to be in the top level of stuff here. I don't know. Not just taxpayer money.
Well, next hour we're going to talk with Jarvis Caldwell. He's the new House Minority Leader. Can he clean this up?
Can he bribe us?
He's got the toughest job. He's got no power, so nobody bribes him. All right,
bribery.
You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is 710 KNUS. Yes, we can be bought.